G'day everyone, welcome to another Cyclone Chasers public update tonight, the 24th of November 2015. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update sponsored by major sponsor Campbell Scientific Australia, when measurements matter. Well, we got a little shafted by the tropical low that ended up weakening into that weaker trough that it only caused rainfall really from this area around Cairns northwards. The area around Cairns northwards did cop some pretty good falls out of it though, anywhere from 50 to 100 millimetres in parts across that coastline. But unfortunately, with the low weakening so dramatically, it ended up moving more in a west-northwesterly direction. It ended up crossing the coast here as a really weak trough, and the only weather that was enhanced was this air a couple of hundred k's to the south, and we did get, as I said, some pretty good rainfall out of that. But the hope was that it was going to be a bit of a stronger system. While we didn't expect a cyclone, we were hoping for a stronger trough or a stronger low, tracking more in a westerly direction, probably hitting around Cairns and then creating rainfall on this section of coastline here, which wasn't to be. Taking a look across Australia, thanks to Weather Zone, we can see the radar showing us a few thunderstorms in a line here along a trough line in Queensland. Some quite strong storms developed around southeast Queensland. They were a little unexpected. We expected to see some storm activity there. However, the fact that we had a couple of strong ones, that was more unexpected. As we head further to the west here across the Northern Territory, some isolated activity developing. Some really good shower and storm activity developing just inland of the coastal Pilbara and Kimberley region, and that was definitely expected. Should be an even better day tomorrow with showers and storms in this area. Some cooler upper level air is creating enhanced instability in the middle and upper levels with a nice trough system developing through this region as well. There is a tropical depression that Fiji is looking at the moment, right around the 180-degree east line here, right around the date line. They're giving it a low probability of developing into a cyclone tomorrow. That continues to be a low probability on Thursday and continues to be a low probability on Friday as well. So they're not expecting any rapid development of this system. Some of the computer models are suggesting a gradual development while it stalls in this region. Now, its eventual track is not going to be towards Australia. Its eventual track will be out here to the southeast. If we take a look at the latest GFS ensemble, we can see that the general track of this is back out here to the southeast. Does intensify it into a borderline Category 1 cyclone, but not overall a very significant system. Definitely a very large area of low pressure, so perhaps even if it doesn't make cyclone status, it's going to affect some of these islands a fair amount because of its sheer size. The CMC computer model gets a little bit crazy at times, and it has gone a little bit crazy here, developing this into a Cat 2 or 3 cyclone and tracking it same sort of direction though, a little bit further to the east on the CMC, rather further east, southeast I should say, rather than southeast, and also a slightly deeper system. Pay no attention to this outlier, which has it tracking west towards Vanuatu. And if we take a look at the European ensemble here, we can see three low pressure systems here. This one's obviously the most dominant, or will become the most dominant. As we go to tomorrow, you can start to see this one consolidating. As we go to Thursday, definitely consolidating there. Friday, Saturday intensifies and tracks away to the east-southeast, similar to what the CMC does. Look, while I say it does intensify, it doesn't intensify rapidly, and it doesn't look like it's intensifying dramatically either. There's going to be a very strong high here, so a huge pressure gradient here, which will result in gale force winds, particularly to the south of the system. No effect whatsoever on Australia's weather, and the biggest thing that we're watching for in Australia is probably a very strong trough to develop across inland parts of Australia over the weekend, and that will also that's another trough system, will also create a bonza outbreak of showers, storms and severe activity across southeast Queensland as we head into the weekend and into early next week. Looking at the forecast rainfall for today, for the rest of today and into tonight across Australia, we can see this Pilbara action over here. And we've also got some storm activity along that line, as I mentioned, between southeast Queensland and the Gulf. They're isolated and patchy, but they're there, and some of them can be quite strong. As we go to tomorrow, we're going to see an increase in shower and storm activity across the Northern Territory. Definitely an increase in the Pilbara. and possibly the Kimberley region. We're going to see all that storm activity that's around the southeast corner push back to the west as the trough migrates westwards and re-establishes and redevelops here across western Queensland. That's all in preparation for the madness that's about to arise later on in the week and in the weekend. On Thursday, if we take a look, we continue to see this trough beginning to organise across inland parts of Australia, as we also see a big increase in shower and storm activity across the Northern Territory, the northern half of the Northern Territory. The Pilbara and Kimberley activity has now hit its peak and is starting to weaken out on Thursday, and by Friday we're going to see a big decrease in activity here and a big increase in activity here. And on Friday, as I said, that's the first day of our big storm outbreak across southeast Queensland. From then on, it just goes on and on and on. On Saturday, we can see here really strong storms developing across the southeast and southern inland of Queensland, extending back to the northwest, but there is a patch in the central Queensland with some more stable weather and certainly less moisture feeding into the trough line in this central part of Queensland, so that might limit the storm activity in there. No sign of any of that, by the way, heading towards the central and northeast Queensland coast. There is another trough in the Coral Sea, in the far northern Coral Sea, that's expected to track westwards, but look, this one is only a trough and we're not really concerned about it. Look, if it does develop into anything, we'll let you know, but at this stage, folks, other than mentioning it on this broadcast now, I don't see any reason to harp on it anymore. Across the Northern Territory, still continuing to see a lot of storm activity, particularly in the Darwin area there on Saturday, and really once the storms are in, they're here to stay now for the Territory for a fairly lengthy period. Most of the Kimberley and Pilbara is sky clear, except for the far northern Kimberley. It's going to be a cracker day of storms tomorrow over the Pilbara, and then the NT from about Thursday onwards will see widespread storm activity, and then that craziness starts in southeast Queensland around about Friday. So if you're under a storm, congratulations and enjoy, and if you're under one of the storms in southeast Queensland over the weekend or on Friday, please make sure that you do listen to Bureau of Meteorology warnings on those systems, and I can guarantee you there will be warnings on those systems. Remember, folks, if you like these updates, please subscribe to Oz Cyclone Chasers on our website, ozcyclonechasers.com.au. You help us by subscribing, as most of the funds raised go towards chasing and documenting tropical cyclones and buying better equipment to do so. And in turn, we give you much more in-depth information. Assuming nothing happens in the next week, and I do very much doubt anything will happen in the next week cyclone-wise, we will talk to you again next Tuesday. Have a great week.